special ceremony is taking place at the University of Chester this afternoon, which will see it become one of the first universities in the UK to pledge its commitment to challenging stigma surrounding recovery from addictions.
Now, as I just mentioned, it's a big time for students right now across the North East. Going to be starting a new chapter in their lives at university. A lot of them will be in for a very intense Freshers' Week. I mean, it's full of partying and having lots of fun, making the most of their newfound freedom, meeting new people. It can be a really exciting time, but also a challenging one for students who might be facing problems with addiction in recovery or come from families that have been challenged by addiction. However, there is support out there.
So it started in 2013 when we screened the anonymous people in Durham, and at the time the agenda had changed to have a big focus on recovery. So lived experience was just starting to form nationally in a visible way. We had the rehabs in Durham, and I just sat there and thought, well, that's obvious, why aren't we doing that? I went over to North Carolina to spend some time with Healing Transitions. Dr. Al Mooney is one of the big contributors of the Mooney family at Willingway in Georgia, and I went down to Georgia Southern and then went to Chapel Hill and met a beautiful guy who is unfortunately now passed away, called Frank Allison. And I had my son with me he was doing a journalism degree, and he got permission from the university to come over and film this whole journey. And then I was just absolutely blown away by talking to students, seeing the impact. And on the flight back, applied for a Winston Churchill Fellowship. They have 1,500 applicants, and they award about 120 fellowships a year. And I'm, astounded that I got a fellowship to spend time in the States. And then I reached out because Texas Tech has really the biggest kind of reputation. And I remember reaching out and asking, I think, if I could come to Prague because I saw there was a study abroad program. So I went there in the June and then flew out in the August and spent time in spent the longest time with Texas Tech, but visited 6 of their universities. And then Dr. Tom and Vince came over after Prague and before I came out, and we did a seminar at Teesside University, and there was a real interest in it. And that was really where the journey started. I just started being a thorn in the side of key individuals at Teesside Uni until they gave us some space and allowed us to be present on campus. And then I think from that it just seemed a natural progression. What can we do now? We need universities to publicly declare that they support this, and we came up with the pledge.
So the pledge was developed by an organisation called Recovery Connections in collaboration with 4 universities, Sunderland, Teesside, Birmingham and us at the University of Chester. And it's got 10 elements to it, and it involves things like committing to providing alcohol-free spaces on campus, awareness-raising opportunities like recovery ally training that we offer, alcohol-free student accommodation, peer support groups on campus, sober social activities, and really just to recognise the fact that people in recovery are amongst us. So we hope that in signing the pledge in Chester, we're kind of sending a signal to wider culture that being a person in recovery is a wonderful thing.
We've got Simon here, Simon Lee from Sunderland University. Sunderland has made the pledge, first university in the country, yes?
We are, Matt, yeah. It's something we are sort of particularly proud of. All universities right across the UK and indeed in the US as well. We will all have students in recovery. And the thing is that we need to promote a message that actually you're not alone, and there are a variety of services here to support you. I mean, here at Sunderland, we've always had a track record of welcoming students from all backgrounds. And our mission is very much about ensuring all students can reach their potential. We're known for being nurturing and supportive and being committed to underrepresented groups. And for us, this is just another opportunity to drive that mission forward.
Well, it's great news. It's great to see a university, say Sunderland University, such a popular university in our patch. Obviously, being the first uni to support the initiative and adopt it into what you do.
Yeah, so we have helped a number of colleges and universities implement collegiate recovery programs on their campus. But yesterday was more satisfying because I understand the work that's gone in the last several years to get to a point where a university in the UK is signing a recovery pledge. And that is monumental, right? So rarely do you see an event where that becomes a tipping point, and that tipping point is going to impact an entire country.
It's something I'm personally very into because I'm in recovery and I am a student myself at the moment, so I understand what the pressures are and what the strains are and how difficult this can be. I mean, luckily for myself, I didn't need to move away from home, but I can, for those people for the first time or ever leaving the family homestead and, they're mixing with a group of people they've never met, and then if you add later into the journey the pressure of all the exams and, dissertation work, it's really hard going. So I'm really passionate about providing that support for those students.
I think each collegiate recovery program goes through different sets of barriers depending on, their institution and where they are. I think the biggest one is, buy-in from the higher ups in the institution. And once you have, people that have power to influence the system on board, then barriers can be broken down more quickly. I think the other barrier is funding for us, which I think is a barrier, across the board for everybody, is where is the resources going to come to do that? And to be honest, the universities in the US, another barrier is space. Space is a premium in universities, and so carving out space, which is so critical for these programs to kind of institutionalize them, so funding, space, and then buy-in are all barriers that I think DOT is familiar with. Anybody that's trying in the UK to put, these kinds of support programs for students in recovery, they're facing. Okay.
It's emerging. It's emerging because it's now on the Commissioner's menu of interventions. So within a drug treatment and recovery system, a recovery-orientated system of care, Commissioners are now informed and encouraged to commission collegiate recovery. When you talk about collegiate recovery or campus recovery, which is sometimes more understandable in UK language, the assumption is it's the students who are struggling. So the assumption is that it's a drug and alcohol support system for people who are still in the active addiction phase rather than the support of students in recovery.